Okay, let's unpack this. If you are, deeply committed to learning English, you get to a point pretty quickly. You realize that just knowing the grammar rules or having a long list of vocabulary words, it only gets you about halfway there. The moment you want to sound like a natural fluent speaker, like a real person, you hit the ultimate challenge, idioms. So today we're taking a deep dive into a really powerful stack of sources. They're all designed to shortcut your path to fluency by mastering these essential conversational English idioms. This is where the truly natural language begins.
It really is. It's like the final frontier of conversational English, isn't it? Idioms are the absolute bridge between knowing the mechanics of the language and sounding genuinely, effortlessly natural. Our mission in this deep dive is, well, it's pretty expansive. We're going so far beyond simple dictionary definitions. We really need to focus intensely on the context, the connotation, the emotional weight of the phrase, and the why. When and why do native speakers choose these specific expressions? Understanding those subtle social and emotional cues is, it's absolutely crucial for any learner who's striving for that rapid fluency.
That's so right. And we're not just, digging up obscure archaic phrases that nobody actually uses anymore.
Right. Things that make you sound like you're from 100 years ago.
Exactly. Our research has curated a stack of over 30 highly useful high-frequency idioms for everyday, casual, and even professional conversation. We're going to structure this dive thematically. We'll cover everything from, say, planning and pressure to how we talk about secrets, finance, and social standing. We'll also be sure to point out essential variations, like those subtle differences where American and British English kind of diverge, which can definitely save you a moment of awkwardness.
For sure. At the end of the day, this is all about achieving communicative precision without being, unnecessarily wordy. If you can master these phrases, you can instantly convey complex ideas, nuanced emotional states, all these intricate social dynamics. That efficiency, that ability to communicate volumes in just a handful of words is the undisputed hallmark of advanced fluency. So let's start by navigating the subtle language of influence, preference, and how we handle social decisions, often without saying exactly what we mean.
All right, section 1. Let's talk about navigating decisions and social pressure. First up, let's get into influence. How do you get what you want? Or maybe how do you handle it when someone is pushing you to do something you'd really rather avoid? The first idiom is a classic: to twist someone's arm.
Oh, this is a powerful one. It means to persuade someone to do something they initially don't want to do, but you have to pay really close attention to the connotation here. It is generally negative, or at the very least, reluctant. It implies a slightly forceful, maybe even a badgering way of persuading. You're moving past a gentle suggestion and, toward an agreement that's not entirely willing.
It really suggests there was significant resistance, doesn't it? Think about the physical discomfort implied in the literal act of twisting an arm. That pain is kind of metaphorically transferred to the social situation. So, for example, if I ask you to come to a 7 a.m. yoga class, and I know for a fact you hate early mornings, I know I'm asking for some resistance. So I might say, look, I'm not going to twist your arm, but I really think you'd benefit. By saying I won't twist your arm, I'm kind of emphasizing that the choice is entirely yours, which reduces the pressure.
Precisely. You're acknowledging the reluctance. And if someone uses this phrase about themselves, saying, I didn't want to go, but my boss twisted my arm, they're framing the action as something that was, forced upon them. On the other hand, like you just said, if someone says, oh, there was no need to twist my arm, I was happy to volunteer, they're underscoring their immediate willingness, their enthusiasm. The core idea, though, always involves overcoming some degree of inherent resistance or discomfort on the part of the person being persuaded.
That really helps anchor that negative feeling that's associated with the phrase. Okay, so now let's flip that scenario completely. Let's talk about something someone would genuinely love and embrace without any arm twisting at all. For that, we use the idiom right up your alley.
This one is just beautifully specific. It means something is the exact type of thing somebody really likes, enjoys, or is, perfectly suited for them. The linguistic value here is that you use it to add emphasis and personalization. So instead of a dry analysis like, this new software update is compatible with your job requirements, you'd say,
This update, oh, it's right up your alley.
Exactly. It's so much more engaging.
I love that our sources mentioned the visual of a bowling alley. I think that's a fantastic memory aid. If you're bowling and you hit the pocket right in the alley, it's a perfect fit, right? It's going exactly where it should go. So say you have a friend who's obsessed with 1980s movies and a local theater is doing a retrospective. You wouldn't just say, you should go. You'd say, they're screening E.T. next week. That's right up your alley, isn't it? Yeah, it's a huge compliment because it shows you actually know and respect their specific taste.
It is. It's highly effective in building rapport. Using this idiom tells the listener two distinct things instantly. First, that you have a deep understanding of their personal interests and preferences. And second, that the item or the activity or whatever it is an absolute bullseye match for that taste. It saves you from having to say so many descriptive sentences about compatibility and preference. It just communicates the idea instantly.
Okay, moving from general preference to financial preference, specifically paying for other people. When you volunteer to cover the cost for a shared meal or drinks, you pick up the tab or you pick up the check.
Both variations carry the exact same meaning, to pay the bill. But the sources are really insistent about a critical context boundary here, and this is essential for advanced learners. This phrase is strictly limited to bills for food, beverages, or maybe entertainment at a restaurant, a bar, a cafe, something like that. You absolutely must not use this phrase for general household expenses. You would never say, I'll pick up the tab for the car payment.
Oh, yeah, that sounds completely unnatural. And what about that subtle regional difference in the terminology itself, the use of tab versus check?
Well, in American English, check is overwhelmingly common, particularly in sit-down restaurants. The server asks, can I get you the check? But tab is also used, particularly in bars or pubs, more casual venues, places where a running total is kept open, like a ledger, while you're ordering multiple rounds of drinks. So when someone asks, whose turn is it to pick up the tab, or they say, don't worry, I'll pick up the check tonight, they are volunteering to be the payer for that specific occasion.
Got it. Okay, shifting gears a little. Social situations often require some polite management, especially when you're dealing with invitations. Sometimes you just need a diplomatic way out, which brings us to this indispensable idiom, to take a rain check.
This means to decline an invitation now, but at the same time suggest doing the activity at a later, unspecified time. Apparently, the phrase goes all the way back to sports, particularly baseball. If a game was rained out, the ticket stub, the rain check, would grant you entrance to a later game. It's a promise of a future engagement in exchange for a current refusal.
But, and this is the critical real-world nuance that our sources emphasize, this is the cornerstone of understanding conversational fluency. Sometimes this phrase is used when the speaker actually has zero intention of ever doing the activity.
Exactly. It's one of the most common, polite, and socially accepted ways to just say no without being overtly rude or aggressive. You might genuinely be busy and really want to reschedule, but equally, if you just don't like the person or the location or the activity, I'll take a rain check is the diplomatic soft refusal. For the learner, understanding this unspoken possibility that the reschedule may never, ever materialize is key to interpreting social interactions correctly. It's a way of kicking that unpleasant decision down the road indefinitely.
It really is the ultimate path of least resistance in social settings. Now, what if the thing you need to postpone isn't a social invitation, but maybe a tangent in a business meeting or an interesting thread in a discussion? That's when we use to put a pin in it or put a pin in this.
Yeah, this idiom's meaning is very, very specific. It means to take a short, temporary break from discussing a particular topic with a concrete plan to resume the discussion later. This happens constantly in professional settings, right? Particularly during focus meetings where an interesting but tangential topic threatens to derail the main agenda. A team leader might interrupt and say, that's a fascinating side point about the new marketing campaign, but let's put a pin in it for now and dedicate 30 minutes to it next week.
So if someone is unintentionally getting sidetracked, this idiom acts as a sort of gentle control mechanism. It brings the focus back without just dismissing the idea entirely.
Precisely. And this is where the essential distinction for the learner lies. Rain check is for invitations, and it's super non-committal. Put a pin in it is exclusively for discussion items, and crucially, it implies a genuine and expected intention to return to that topic. If you use this in a work meeting, the expectation is that the item is logged and scheduled for a later discussion. If you said, let's take a rain check on that budget discussion, it would just sound too casual and, frankly, confusing to your colleagues. The sources rate, put a pin in it as very high utility in a professional context.
That clarity is just invaluable. You wouldn't use rain check to postpone an agenda item, and you certainly wouldn't use put a pin in it to decline a dinner invitation. They serve entirely different social and professional functions. Okay, let's transition into the world of organizational styles, planning, and navigating high stakes. We often discuss two contrasting approaches to life, right? The highly structured versus the purely spontaneous. Let's start with prioritizing flexibility. To play it by ear,
This means deciding what to do moment to moment based on real-time conditions. You're prioritizing flexibility over a rigid, pre-planned structure. It's commonly used when you're dealing with unpredictable factors like global travel itineraries or the classic example you mentioned, weather forecasts.
It absolutely embodies adaptability. If my family asks what we're doing this weekend, I might have a general idea, maybe visiting a museum, but I might say, let's just play it by ear.
Yeah.
We can decide Sunday morning based on how everyone is feeling and what the traffic looks like.
Yeah.
I'm committing to a state of flexibility, not to a specific action.
And it allows for that necessary responsiveness, but flexibility has a kind of risky counterpart, which is the idiom to wing it.
Ah, yes. To wing it means to do something without any preparation whatsoever. Now, as the sources point out, this idiom has a strong duality. On one hand, it can be adventurous. Spontaneous travel, for example, is often described as winging it. On the other hand, it almost always implies poor judgment or, laziness in a high-stakes setting.
The context is absolutely everything when you're assessing the connotation. If you're at Beach Bar and you say, we're just going to wing the rest of our vacation, that suggests spontaneous fun. But if you're a professional and you admit, I didn't prepare for the client presentation, I decided to wing it, you are basically admitting to gross negligence. The source material had a joke about that moment you realize, I definitely should not have been winging this. It's often when you're standing in front of an angry audience or realizing you've completely messed up your tax documents.
Oh, that disastrous feeling after winging a crucial task is universally relatable. That feeling, of course, highlights the absolute necessity of preparation, which brings us to the ultimate organization idiom, to have your ducks in a row.
If you have your ducks in a row, you are fully prepared, you are meticulously organized, and you're ready for whatever challenge is coming. It's a fantastic, crisp metaphor, isn't it? It visually represents everything aligned, categorized, and ready to move forward efficiently.
And its usage in work settings is incredibly powerful. Describing a new project manager as someone who always has their ducks in a row instantly communicates that they're reliable, competent, detail-oriented. It means they know exactly what's going on.
And you can use the negative structure effectively, too. If a colleague is constantly missing deadlines or arriving late or losing files, you can describe them as needing to get their ducks in a row. It's a diplomatic but firm instruction to organize their professional life. We talked earlier about being all ears when you're focused. A person who struggles to get their ducks in a row might have their head in the clouds. It suggests they're distracted or unrealistic or just not paying attention to the necessary details.
Now let's talk about situations where the failure to prepare, or even just one single mistake, can put us in a situation where the stakes are dangerously high, where we are on thin ice.
This idiom is just wonderfully expressive because the literal meaning so strongly reinforces the metaphor. To be on thin ice is to be in a difficult, dangerous, or precarious situation that involves a severe risk of failure or punishment. Literally like standing on a frozen pond where the ice is just cracking beneath you.
It functions most often as a direct, blunt warning. If an employee is consistently late or missing sales targets, their manager might tell them, you need to fix this immediately, you are on thin ice, and one more mistake could cost you your job. And the source gives that classic personal example. Forgetting a partner's birthday or an anniversary, that's a situation where you are definitely on thin ice and facing some cold punishment.
For sure. And sometimes when someone else is on thin ice, you might feel obligated to step in and try to save them, which requires you to stick your neck out for someone.
To stick your neck out means to take a significant risk that might turn out wrong, often specifically on behalf of another person. The idiom implies great courage and often personal vulnerability. Again, think about the physical act. Extending your neck makes you vulnerable to attack or blame.
It is fundamentally a courageous or protective act. Imagine a workplace scenario. A new team member makes an embarrassing, costly mistake, but you are the only one who knows the truth. Sticking your neck out would mean taking the blame yourself, or maybe aggressively defending their actions to the boss, knowing that if you fail, you'll be penalized. You are literally putting your own professional standing, reputation, or safety at risk for someone else's benefit.
And if someone completely refuses to be careful, choosing risk over caution, they might throw caution to the wind.
This is the absolute opposite of organization, planning, and caution. It means stopping being careful entirely and doing something inherently dangerous or reckless that might result in failure.
What's interesting is that the sources note it's frequently used in the negative, as a command to be careful. We often say, we're approaching the deadline, but this is not the time to throw caution to the wind. which instructs the team to avoid unnecessary risks or chances. But it can also be used positively, right? Describing an adventurous moment, like quitting a stable job to travel the world. You decided to throw caution to the wind and just embrace the uncertainty.
Whether it's positive or negative, it describes a moment of deliberate recklessness. But sometimes the risk isn't about external failure. It's about internal difficulty. You simply must face an uncomfortable next step, which brings us to bite the bullet.
To bite the bullet means to force yourself to do something extremely unpleasant or difficult that you have been successfully avoiding up until now.
This is a tremendously powerful phrase for overcoming internal emotional or physical resistance. And to help the listener remember this, we should pause on the etymology. The phrase apparently originates from historical medicine, before anesthetics were common. When a patient faced a difficult, painful surgery like a limb amputation, they were sometimes literally given a metal bullet to bite down on to distract them from the pain and prevent them from screaming or biting their tongue.
Wow. That historical context really elevates the phrase. It's not just difficult, it's painful and unavoidable. It's the task you absolutely dread, but you must face. The classic modern example is giving a public speech despite having a massive fear of public speaking. You don't want to do it, you find it painful, but you have to stop procrastinating, bite the bullet, and just get it done. Another common use is, calling a difficult client or facing an unpleasant conversation with a family member.
Or perhaps undergoing a necessary but painful medical procedure. You know it's coming, you hate it, but eventually you have to mentally prepare yourself to bite the bullet. It signifies this forced resignation to an unpleasant inevitability. It's the moment you stop winging it and accept the unpleasant reality that structure must be imposed.
Moving forward, life is, it's inevitably full of minor stress, occasional health issues, and financial challenges. We have a set of idioms specifically designed to communicate these situations efficiently and conversationally, starting with health. Under the weather.
This is a foundational phrase for social interaction. It is a highly common, casual, and polite way of saying, I'm a little sick. It is preferred over the simpler statement because it's softer, more relatable, and less demanding of specific details.
Right. Almost always call a case with the verb to feel. I'm sorry I won't be able to come in today. I'm feeling a little under the weather. The beauty of the phrase is its necessary vagueness. It implies a minor illness, a cold, fatigue, a headache, without requiring any specific medical detail. It's the perfect diplomatic explanation for minor malaise. The source even noted that sometimes people use it as a general excuse to get out of responsibilities, simply because it's so universally accepted and relatable.
From feeling unwell to struggling financially, to make ends meet.
If you say you are trying to make ends meet, you are earning just enough money to survive, to cover essential fixed costs like rent, basic groceries, and utility bills. Crucially, the connotation is always negative. It implies difficulty and financial strain.
Sure.
This is not a phrase used by someone living comfortably or saving money.
Not at all. The sources heavily link this idiom with accompanying verbs that underscore the difficulty. You might say someone is struggling to make ends meet, or barely making ends meet. We see this phrase used constantly in discussions about economic stability, often concerning students, young professionals, or those working minimum wage jobs. They may have few or zero savings and are constantly living close to the financial edge, just trying to stretch their income far enough to cover the necessary expenses.
And when those financial pressures hit, sometimes you are forced to pay through the nose for something.
This means to pay an excessive amount for something, often significantly more than what would be considered a fair or reasonable price. The source material adds a great dimension here. It is often used when prices are artificially inflated due to factors outside your control, like a sudden lack of supply or overwhelming demand.
Oh yeah, think about that time when you absolutely had to fly home for the holidays, and because demand was sky high, you were forced to pay through the nose for an airline ticket that was 3 times the normal price.
Right.
Or maybe your plumbing breaks on a Sunday afternoon and the emergency plumber charges you an exorbitant fee. You feel robbed, but you had to bite the bullet and pay through the nose because you were desperate. It emphasizes the excessiveness and often the unfairness of the cost.
Moving from external financial difficulties to more internal predicaments. If you describe yourself as being in a pickle, you are in a frustrating, difficult situation.
This is a wonderfully illustrative idiom, and the source emphasizes a critical nuance. Being in a pickle is typically a frustrating situation, but it is explicitly not a catastrophic, life-altering, end-of-the-world problem. It's used colloquially and often humorously. You'll frequently hear the collocation, in a pretty pickle? For example, I left my wallet at home, I have no cash for lunch, and my phone battery just died. I'm in a pretty pickle right now, but I'll figure it out.
It's a relatable, frustrating dilemma, not a genuine tragedy. The image of a kitten stuck in a pickle jar, adorable, in a difficult situation, but ultimately fine, that captures the connotation perfectly. Now, if you find yourself in a pickle, it's always helpful to realize you're not the only one. You might discover you are in the same boat.
To be in the same boat means to be experiencing the exact same unpleasant or difficult situation as other people around you. It's an idiom used primarily to express shared experience, mutual understanding, and solidarity.
Exactly. Imagine two employees who both got laid off in the same week, or two students who both failed the same difficult exam. They can look at each other and immediately realize they are in the same boat. It's an idiom that immediately establishes connection and mutual support through shared suffering. And it's important to note the nuance here. We typically don't use this for shared positive experiences. You wouldn't usually say, we both won the lottery, we're in the same boat. It almost exclusively implies shared adversity.
And when you are in a difficult situation, whether it's struggling to make ends meet or realizing you are on thin ice, you often need to find a way to let go of that emotional pressure. You need to blow off some steam.
To blow off some steam means to engage in an activity or dialogue, specifically to release strong pent-up feelings, nervous energy, or stress. The imagery comes from the industrial world where a pressurized boiler needs to release steam safely to prevent an explosion.
And while it's commonly associated with physical activity, going for a hard run, hitting the gym, or yelling into a pillow, it can also apply to more internal, relaxing forms of stress relief. Anything that helps you get rid of that pent-up energy works, whether it's an intense yoga session, spending hours reading a book, or just venting your frustrations to a trusted friend.
If that steam is being generated by working against an impossible deadline, you might find yourself racing down to the wire.
This refers to the last minute or very end of a situation, specifically one that is characterized by high suspense, tension, and uncertainty about the final outcome. The image is of a race so close that the winner can only be determined by looking at the finish line wire.
It applies perfectly to sports, where the championship game is coming down to the wire, the outcome is uncertain, and the tension is palpable. But it's also highly useful in project management. If you are racing against a tight deadline, unsure if your team will finish the complex task in time, you are stressed out and things are truly coming down to the wire. You might even need to schedule a massive session to blow off some steam immediately afterward.
And finally, a less frantic, more long-term view of difficulty, to weather the storm.
To weather the storm means to continue doing something, persisting, or simply surviving despite serious, prolonged problems or difficulties.
This idiom really emphasizes resilience, determination, and long-term endurance. It's frequently used in a business or political context, such as a startup expressing confidence it can weather the storm of the current economic recession. It suggests a sustained effort to endure difficult conditions, rather than a frantic race against the clock like being down to the wire. I mean, a lot of people who are struggling to take ends meet are currently trying to weather the storm of global inflation.
Fluency is nothing if you can't communicate effectively, and effective communication starts with exceptional listening. We have a set of fantastic idioms for describing attentiveness. Let's start with intense focus. To hang on someone's every word.
This means to listen extremely carefully, not just because you have to, but because you admire, respect, or are totally captivated by the person speaking. It denotes an intense, almost worshipful level of focus that is higher than simply listening politely.
Right. If you are at a prestigious academic lecture delivered by an expert whose work you deeply admire, you are hanging on their every word. You're convinced that every utterance they make is incredibly important or contains some hidden nugget of wisdom. It conveys total, rapt attention. We hope, of course, that as you learn English, you are finding us worth hanging on our every word.
A slightly more common, simpler, and immediate way to express attentiveness is to be all ears.
To be all ears means that you are waiting eagerly to hear about something and are giving your complete, undivided attention to the speaker. It's often used as a standalone statement to prompt someone to begin talking. Wow, you've got a crazy story. Tell me everything. I'm all ears. It tells the speaker that you are completely focused and ready to receive their information.
And if that speaker mentions something that sparks a flicker of recognition in your memory, even if you can't place the details, you might use the idiom ring bell.
Ring a bell means that the information, name, or idea sounds familiar. It's perfectly interchangeable with the phrase sound familiar when discussing recollection or memory retrieval. For instance, I heard you mention that movie star. Does the name Robert Dunlap ring a bell? The implication is that you are probing for a partial memory. If you recognize the name but can't remember why, you might say, "It rings a bell, but I can't place where I know him from."
Now, for the opposite side of communication, silence, secrecy, and disclosure. If you need to ensure that something remains absolutely quiet, you might conclude the conversation by saying, "Mum's the word."
This is a highly casual, informal, and standalone statement that directly means keep this information a secret or don't tell anyone else what I just told you.
Hmm.
It's often used immediately after sensitive information is shared to ensure confidentiality, like saying, "The merger news is strictly confidential until Monday." Mum's the word.
And if you are trying to keep a secret and fail, someone might eventually get wind of something.
To get wind of something means that you unexpectedly hear a piece of private, confidential, or secret information that someone else was explicitly trying to keep under wraps.
The sources highlight the massive value of this idiom in terms of fluency. It is incredibly precise and significantly more efficient than using a long descriptive phrase. Instead of stumbling through, "How did you accidentally hear about this crucial piece of confidential information that I was trying to keep secret from you?"
Yeah.
You just ask, with a hint of suspicion, "How did you get wind of this?" It's very clean and specific, suggesting the information was carried on a metaphorical breeze.
A perfect example is planning a surprise party. If the person who is supposed to be surprised tells you, "I heard you guys booked a venue on Friday," you might reply, "How did you get wind of that? We tried so hard to keep it quiet." It describes that moment of disclosure precisely.
Now, sometimes the secret is something personal, something that has been internally worrying you or making you feel guilty.
Mm.
You need to get something off your chest.
This is such an important act of emotional release. It means to tell a trusted person about something difficult that has been deeply troubling you or causing immense guilt. The confession itself, the act of speaking it aloud, is what provides the relief. It feels physically lighter, as if a weight has been lifted from your chest.
We can all relate to that profound sense of relief after confession. You usually share this with someone you've been through thick and thin with, right? Someone you trust completely. However, as the sources wisely caution, while you might feel better after the confession, you have to be prepared for the social consequences. If the news you shared genuinely upsets the listener, you might immediately feel lighter, but you could, ironically, end up in the doghouse yourself.
That's a crucial caveat. Understanding the social and emotional consequence of the idiom is vital for learners. Finally, when you are receiving information, especially sensitive or potentially biased information, you need to employ critical thinking and to take something with a grain of salt or a pinch of salt.
This means that you should not completely believe everything you're being told because you suspect the information is unlikely to be entirely true, accurate, or free from exaggeration or bias.
This is one of the most vital idioms for modern communication. We need it constantly. The idea goes back to ancient remedies, where poison was less effective if taken with a grain of salt, suggesting a metaphorical safeguard. For the learner, the main linguistic difference here is regional. American English almost exclusively uses grain of salt, while British English favors pinch of salt. The meaning remains identical globally.
And given the sheer volume of unsubstantiated information circulating today, especially online, the sources suggest we should treat anything read on unverified social media with a massive grain of salt. It's about applying that necessary critical evaluation to the deluge of information we consume daily, acknowledging the inherent possibility of inaccuracy or bias in the source. All right, our final major section focuses on navigating social standing, dealing with frustrating bureaucracy, and gaining clarity by looking back. Let's start by returning to the consequences of poor decisions in relationships. In the doghouse.
If you are in the doghouse, you are in a bad situation, having incurred the anger or displeasure of someone else, typically someone close to you. This is overwhelmingly common in romantic or close family relationships.
The image is immediately relatable and slightly humiliating, being metaphorically sent outside to the cold, uncomfortable doghouse. The classic situation is the one we mentioned. Forgetting a partner's birthday or saying something carelessly insensitive, you know you messed up, you are officially in the doghouse. To get out, you usually need to perform an act of restitution, a large apology, buying flowers, or perhaps making an expensive dinner reservation. But it can also apply at work if you massively upset the boss or a key client.
It speaks to temporary disgrace. Now, contrast that common temporary negative state with the positive endurance of 30, through thick and thin.
Through thick and thin refers to supporting or being supported by someone through many difficult, challenging times over a long duration. It explicitly expresses shared ups and downs, acknowledging both good times and bad times experienced together.
This idiom is really reserved for relationships characterized by great longevity and loyalty. Your spouse, a lifelong best friend, or colleagues who have worked together for decades. It typically employs the past participle, as in, we have been through thick and thin for 40 years. It instantly establishes a profound history of enduring companionship and loyalty, something far beyond a fair-weather friend.
Now for an idiom that focuses on perceived status, value, or social hierarchy. Out of your league.
This means that a person or thing is perceived as being too good, too superior, or too expensive for someone to realistically acquire or attain. While it can refer to material objects, a luxury car or a sprawling home might be out of your league financially, it is most commonly used when discussing dating or romantic compatibility.
The sources include a humorous, often self-deprecating application, where friends might tell someone, don't bother approaching her, she's definitely out of your league, usually due to perceived gaps in attractiveness, intelligence, or social standing. It's a fast, albeit judgmental, way to communicate that the gap in status or desirability is simply too wide to bridge successfully.
It creates a clear boundary. Another idiom related to maintaining professional or social standing is to toe the line.
To toe the line means to conform strictly to what is expected of you, following all rules, standards, or party positions without creating controversy, dissent, or trouble for anyone in authority. It implies a high degree of obedience and adherence to the status quo.
In a hierarchical context, this is critical. Employees, especially in large corporations, are often expected to toe the line to keep their jobs, even if they harbor deep personal disagreements with management decisions or company policy. The implication is that deviation or public confrontation will inevitably lead to negative professional consequences. It's really the opposite of having the courage to stick your neck out.
Speaking of professional settings and adherence to rules, let's tackle the universal bane of complexity and delay: red tape.
Red tape refers to excessively complex government or business official rules, processes, and formalities that often seem totally unnecessary. They seem to exist only to frustrate people and delay results. The connotation is almost universally negative and frustrating. This idiom is incredibly useful globally, especially for anyone dealing with bureaucratic processes like immigration, applying for specific government grants, or obtaining construction permits for a business or a new home. There is almost always a huge amount of red tape. Think about trying to get one single document signed, but realizing you need 5 other signed documents just to start the application process. That is classic red tape, delaying everything by weeks.
That anecdote illustrates the pain perfectly. The sources even provided a self-referential joke. Our office supply store is having a sale on red tape this week, but it will take us 9 months to approve the purchase because there's so much red tape in the procurement department. It just underscores the frustrating, self-perpetuating nature of bureaucracy.
From the slow movement of bureaucracy to the rapid speed of trends, we have jump on the bandwagon.
This means to start doing something, supporting a cause, or adopting a trend simply because it has become highly fashionable, widely popular, or profitable, rather than because of any genuine commitment or belief. This idiom often carries a slight criticism, doesn't it? It suggests opportunism rather than genuine passion. The most common context, particularly in American English, is sports. Once a sports team starts winning championships, people who were never fans before suddenly jump on the bandwagon. It also applies frequently in the business world, where companies follow a profitable but fleeting trend just because their competitors are doing it.
Now let's move into post-fact analysis, starting with a classic comment on retrospection. Hindsight is 20/20.
This is such a powerful standalone statement. It means that looking back on a completed or failed situation grants you a perfectly clear understanding of how things could have been done better or why something was inevitable. It kind of mitigates the pain of error. In the U.S., the term 20/20 vision means perfect vision, which provides the literal analogy for clear, retrospective understanding.
It is often used to counsel someone who is facing regret. When you look back and express frustration, I should have known that investment was risky. I should have seen that coming. Someone can offer this idiom simply as a philosophical comment. While hindsight is 20/20, you couldn't have possibly known that at the time. It's an act of linguistic forgiveness.
And the action of criticizing, based on that perfect retrospective view, is encapsulated by our next, often negative idiom, Monday morning quarterback.
This is an iconic American idiom, deeply rooted in the culture of professional football. Games are played on Sunday, and critics and fans the next day, the Monday morning quarterbacks, critique the decisions made by the players and coaches with perfect knowledge of the outcome.
It refers to a person who unfairly criticizes the actions or decisions of others after the fact, after all the risk is past and the results are known. The criticism is labeled unfair because, thanks to hindsight being 20/20, the critic knows exactly what the outcome was. If someone is unfairly criticizing your recent failures, you can simply dismiss them as being a Monday morning quarterback.
And if someone is playing that role and criticizing you relentlessly, you might need a friend to cheer you up and tell you to look on the bright side.
This is used to encourage someone who is currently in a difficult or negative situation to actively shift their perspective and focus on the potential positive elements. It's meant to shift their emotional state.
And here is the critical usage note for fluency. When you use this phrase, the social expectation is that you must follow up by saying why the person should be positive. You can't just offer the idiom and leave it hanging. You must elaborate. For example, look on the bright side. At least now you know exactly what you did wrong in that job interview, and you'll never make that mistake again. Or, look on the bright side, you got laid off, but now you have time to pursue a job that's truly right up your alley.
Finally, let's wrap up by looking at the conclusion of a process. We discussed down to the wire earlier, which implies stress and suspense. A less intense final phase is in the home stretch.
In the home stretch means you have reached the last part, or the final period, of an extended activity, project, or event. Its origin comes from horse racing, referring to the final part of the track before the finish line.
And the distinction from down to the wire is crucial for precise usage. Home stretch refers only to the final period and does not necessarily imply high suspense or stress. It simply denotes proximity to completion. The semester is almost over. We are finally in the home stretch of the research paper, suggests relief and determination, not necessarily a frantic rush.
And tying back to the theme of preparation, organization, and communication, we have out of the loop, in the loop.
If you are out of the loop, you are unaware of important relevant information and are not participating in key decision-making processes. Conversely, if you are in the loop, you are fully aware of what is happening and are kept informed.
This idiom is incredibly practical and pervasive in collaborative work and social dynamics. If a colleague is being excluded or accidentally missing key details, they are out of the loop. And if you want to ensure you remain informed about a project, keeping your ducks in a row, so to speak, you ask someone directly, please keep me in the loop. It's the most efficient way to request that ongoing, essential communication be maintained.
And that brings us to the end of our expansive deep dive into these essential English idioms. We've covered crucial phrases for professional communication, navigating risk and flexibility, managing financial realities, and describing the longevity and dynamics of our most important relationships.
And the ultimate value here, especially for you as an English learner, is understanding that mastering these idioms moves you far, far beyond the boundaries of textbook English. They add specificity, emotional resonance, and phenomenal precision to your language. I mean, think about the massive difference in efficiency between saying, I heard about the secret in an indirect way, and simply stating, I got wind of this. The gain in natural expression and speed is just enormous.
Absolutely. The sources were full of nuggets, emphasizing that fluency is not just about vocabulary size, but about skillful, idiomatic usage. We spent significant time contrasting the dangers of being disorganized and unplanned of, constantly winging it, versus the clarity and benefits of being prepared, of truly having your ducks in a row.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on as you move forward. Achieving fluency in these conversational idioms is a skill that requires conscious, dedicated effort and preparation. It is definitively not something you can simply wing with success. Given that reality, what is one specific area of your life or your English learning journey where you need to shift your approach from merely playing it by ear to truly committing to getting your ducks in a row? Think about that necessary step of preparation and commitment as you start practicing these phrases this week.
Welcome back to the deep dive. And if you're here, it's probably because you want to get straight to the point. You want real knowledge, not just quick definitions.
Exactly. You want to get that genuine understanding and you want to get it efficiently.
And that is absolutely our mission for today. We're doing a deep dive into 33 essential English idioms. The goal isn't just to list them out.
No, not at all. It's to give you the context, the cultural keys, really, the emotional weight behind them. Because mastering these is how you go from just speaking correct English to, Well, to sounding truly fluent.
I couldn't agree more. It's the difference between sounding like you just learned the rules and sounding like someone who, really understands the culture. Idioms are like these amazing linguistic shortcuts.
They really are. They let you bypass these long, drawn-out explanations and just communicate a complex idea instantly.
It's the ultimate aha moment for a learner, isn't it?
Right. It is, because you're getting years of cultural understanding packed into one single phrase. And by getting the nuance, the why behind it, you avoid that feeling of information overload and you sound more natural.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've organized these idioms into four pretty practical categories.
Right.
The idea is to give you something you can use immediately.
Right.
First, we're going to tackle describing your personal status wellness, relatability, how you talk about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Second, we'll dive into managing stress, conflict, all those difficult situations.
Just fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Then third, we'll shift over to planning, preparation, and risk. And finally, we'll look at communication, secrets, and how information kind of flows between people.
Sounds great. Let's jump right in with the personal stuff. It's the most relatable, right? Let's start with how we talk about health, and one of the most common phrases you'll ever hear. Feeling under the weather.
Feeling under the weather. I feel like I use this constantly. It just means you're a little bit sick.
Yeah, just a little sick, but the utility there is what's so interesting. It's the perfect, polite way to get out of something.
Right. You don't have to list all your symptoms.
Exactly. You excuse yourself from a party, a small work task, whatever. You signal you're unwell enough for a break, but not so sick that everyone needs to panic. It has this social currency.
And it's almost always with the verb feel, isn't it? I'm feeling a little under the weather.
Yes, always. But the sources point out something key here, which is that sometimes the sickness is a little convenient.
100%.
Yeah.
If you use it to skip work on a beautiful sunny day,
Yeah.
everyone gets the little wink-wink behind it.
They do. It's light, it's conversational, it avoids all the drama. Saying, I have a cough and my throat hurts is just too clinical. Under the weather is just smoother.
Okay, so let's go from feeling unwell to the complete opposite. Finding something that is perfectly, genuinely enjoyable for you. Right up your alley.
This is such a great phrase. It adds this real enthusiasm. It means something is the exact type of thing a person loves. It's a perfect fit.
It's so much better than just saying, oh, you'll like this.
Oh, miles better. It says this was basically made for you.
And I love the visual of it. The bowling alley, the ball just goes perfectly down the lane, hits all the pins. It's right up your alley. It communicates that perfect alignment.
And think about the personal connection it creates. If I know you love history and I say, this new documentary on 17th century naval warfare is right up your alley, I'm showing I know you, I get what you like.
It builds that rapport. It makes the conversation feel really personal.
Definitely. A great tool for making connections.
So moving from personal tastes to something that affects everyone. Money, specifically financial struggle. This one is so relatable to make ends meet.
It really is. The phrase itself defines such a precarious state, doesn't it? You're earning just enough for the essentials. Food, rent, bills, nothing more.
It's the bare minimum. But the emotional context here is everything. This is not a neutral phrase.
Absolutely not. It is not a good situation. You never hear someone say, great news, we're successfully making ends meet. It always implies difficulty, a struggle.
Yeah, financial anxiety.
Precisely. That's why it's so often paired with words that show hardship. You're struggling to make ends meet or barely making ends meet. It's a shorthand for economic stress without having to talk about your bank balance.
Think about a student right out of university. That's the perfect image, isn't it? Just constantly trying to make ends meet.
That's the one. And when you're just making ends meet, the question of who pays for dinner becomes a lot more important. Which brings us to a very specific social ritual.
Ah, yes. Pick up the tab or pick up the check.
Which just means paying the bill for a meal or for drinks. But the context is crucial here. It's almost always for a restaurant, a cafe, a bar.
Right. The tab is literally that itemized bill they bring you.
Exactly. So you wouldn't say, I'm going to pick up the tab for my new car. It just doesn't work. It's only for that dining or drinking context.
And this is where we can start weaving these together. Someone might say, so whose turn is it to pick up the tab? Because I'm barely making ends meet this month.
And that combination right there, that's fluency. That's not just defining a phrase, that's using it in a real complex sentence that reflects a real situation.
So if you are struggling and you need a little help from a friend, you might have to use our next one, which is very informal.
Yeah, hit someone up.
Hit someone up. It just means to ask someone for something. It's casual. It's for friends or family.
It is. And while you could say, I'm going to hit her up for some advice. Let's be honest. Most of the time, it's about money.
It really is. Hitting someone up for a loan, hitting them up for some cash. The informality is key. You wouldn't draft a formal email to hit someone up. It's a text message.
It is. It's quick. It's direct. Now, if you're asking for something, maybe the other person is a little reluctant. You might need to persuade them.
Which is where you have to twist someone's arm.
Exactly. You persuade someone to do something they don't really want to do, and the feeling is a little bit negative, a bit forceful.
It implies you had to overcome their resistance.
Right. It feels like you had to apply pressure. But here's the really advanced usage. Using it in the negative. This is a great way to show respect.
Oh, I like this. So something like, I'd love for you to come, but I'm not going to twist your arm.
That's it. Exactly. By saying that, you're telling the other person the choice is genuinely theirs. You respect their autonomy. It actually strengthens the relationship. It's a very mature conversational move.
Okay, let's transition. We've talked about social and financial status. Now let's get into navigating trouble, conflict, and consequences. First up, a classic, in the doghouse.
Ah, yes. Being in the doghouse, this means you're in a bad spot because someone is angry with you. It's got a very specific flavor, this one.
It's almost always about relationships, isn't it?
Almost always. Your spouse, your partner, maybe your boss after a really big mistake. It's that feeling of being punished, being shut out.
The image is so perfect. You're literally out in the cold, uncomfortable dog kennel, not in the warm house.
And the phrase itself gives you the solution. You can't just stay there. You have to get out of the doghouse.
Right. You have to do something to fix it, buy flowers, apologize sincerely.
Work overtime to fix the error. You have to actively rectify the situation.
I'm wondering, is there a state you're in before you end up in the doghouse? Like when you're just about to mess up?
That is a fantastic question. And yes, there is. That's when you're on thin ice.
Ah, okay. So what's the difference?
The difference is crucial for fluency. On thin ice is about the imminent risk. The danger is right there. The consequences haven't hit yet, but they're about to. The ice is cracking.
So on thin ice is the warning.
And in the doghouse is the punishment.
Got it.
Exactly. You can use on thin ice as a direct warning. Stop right there. You are on thin ice with this. It signals you've pushed things too far. It's proactive. In the doghouse is reactive. You're already there.
So once that thin ice breaks, and you're facing something truly awful that you just can't avoid anymore, you have to bite the bullet.
Yes. Forcing yourself to do something unpleasant or difficult that you've been putting off. But to really get this one, you have to know the origin. It's pretty grim.
Let's hear it. This is what a deep dive is for.
So back in the day, before we had reliable anesthesia on the battlefield, if a soldier needed surgery, like an amputation, they'd be given a lead bullet to literally bite down on. The lead was soft enough it wouldn't break their teeth, but it gave them something to focus on to brace against the pain.
That changes everything. It's not just do a hard thing. It's about steeling yourself for real pain because it's unavoidable.
That's the essence of it. Fortitude. That person who is terrified of public speaking but has to give that big presentation, they have to bite the bullet.
Okay, so that's for major painful things. What about something that's just really annoying and frustrating?
For that, you are in a pickle.
The classic pickle. So still a difficult situation, but the nuance is different.
Very different. It's not a catastrophe. It's a frustrating bind. It's a solvable problem, but it's deeply annoying. Maybe you double booked yourself for 2 important meetings at the same time.
I'm in a pretty pickle here. It signals frustration, but not, end of the world panic.
Exactly. It's a mid-level problem.
So after you've dealt with the thin ice, the doghouse, the pickle, you're probably pretty stressed out. You need a release.
You need to blow off some steam. Absolutely.
Which means doing something to get rid of all that pent-up energy and stress.
And it can be anything, really. The common examples are physical.
Right.
Going for a run, hitting the gym. But it doesn't have to be.
Right. It could be yoga or reading a book or even just watching a dumb comedy on TV.
It's about that deliberate act of decompression, of letting the pressure out.
And when you're in that state, feeling all that stress, it's often a relief to find out you're not the only one.
Which is perfectly captured by in the same boat.
It means being in the same unpleasant situation as other people. It's such a great phrase for solidarity.
It is. It's a way to connect. If you tell me you're in a pickle with your finances and I say, don't worry, we're all barely making ends meet right now. We're in the same boat.
It immediately creates that bond. You're not alone.
Exactly. It's comforting. And when you're in that boat together, facing the rough seas, Your collective goal is to weather the storm.
Weather the storm. I hear this a lot in business.
A lot. It means to be able to continue on despite serious problems. A company trying to weather an economic downturn, for example.
So it implies endurance, resilience. It's about getting through a crisis that you assume, will eventually end.
Yes, it's the opposite of giving up. It says, we know this is bad, but we are not going to break. Which is actually a perfect lead-in to our next section on planning for those storms in the first place.
Right. Planning, preparation, and risk.
And there is no better idiom for preparation, especially at work, than to get your ducks in a row.
This might be my favorite phrase of the whole bunch. It's so visual. To be completely prepared and organized for something.
It's a fantastic work idiom. You can use it to praise someone. Wow, she really has her ducks in a row for this launch.
Or to criticize someone. His desk is chaos. He needs to get his ducks in a row before this meeting. It just perfectly captures that need for order.
It does. But sometimes, even if you have your own ducks perfectly lined up, you get blocked by the system.
And that's when you run into red tape.
Ugh, red tape. Official rules, bureaucracy, processes that seem totally unnecessary and just exist to slow things down.
We have to get the origin on this one. It's too good. Why red tape?
So it goes back centuries to about 17th century England. Official documents, especially legal and government papers, were literally tied up with red ribbons or tape.
No way.
Yes. And over time, the physical tape became a symbol for the whole slow, frustrating process of dealing with officialdom.
That's amazing. And it's so relatable today. Trying to get a permit for construction, dealing with taxes, immigration paperwork.
It's the perfect phrase for the self-defeating nature of bureaucracy.
Okay, so let's contrast that rigid structure with its opposite. Being flexible. Sometimes you have to play it by ear.
Yes. Which means you decide what to do as the situation develops, rather than planning everything out beforehand.
I use this all the time. With travel, with family plans. What time should we leave tomorrow? I'll play it by ear. It depends on the weather, our mood.
It's a commitment to being adaptable. It avoids over-planning, which can be its own kind of stress.
Now, what's the extreme end of that? The total lack of planning.
That would be to wing it.
Winging it. Doing something with zero preparation.
Yep. The idea comes from the theater, where an actor who forgot their lines might get them fed to them from the wings of the stage.
The connotation of this one is interesting. It can be kind of adventurous, like traveling with no plan.
It can be, but more often, it's risky and implies you're probably going to fail. If you wing a major presentation at work, you're not setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, it's usually something you say with regret. I really shouldn't have been winging it in that meeting.
Exactly. It highlights how important preparation really is.
Okay, so let's move from a lack of planning to intentionally taking risks. Specifically, taking a risk for someone else.
That's when you stick your neck out.
This means taking a risk that might go wrong, but you do it to help another person. It implies courage, doesn't it?
It really does. And loyalty. The image is of a turtle sticking its neck out of its safe shell. You're making yourself vulnerable.
So if a colleague makes a mistake and you take the blame to protect them, you're sticking your neck out for them.
That's a perfect example. You're putting your own reputation on the line. Now, sometimes taking a risk isn't for someone else. It's just abandoning all sense of caution.
That's when you throw caution to the wind.
You stop being careful and you just do something dangerous or reckless.
And here's an interesting nuance. You often hear this used in the negative as a warning.
Yes, that's a great point for advanced learners. Someone might say, I know you're excited, but don't throw caution to the wind. It's a strong piece of advice to be careful.
Now, for a different kind of effort, not risky, but very physically demanding. Elbow grease.
I love this one. It means putting in a lot of hard physical work, usually cleaning or fixing something.
It's so descriptive. The idea that you have to use your physical power to get the job done.
Like when you're trying to scrub a stubborn stain off the floor. It's not about the cleaning product, it's about the elbow grease you put into it.
There's the old joke about going to the hardware store and asking for a bottle of elbow grease.
And that's related to our next one, which is about a different kind of immense effort.
Bend over backwards.
Which means trying extremely hard to help or please someone. You're figuratively contorting yourself to accommodate them.
This one feels like it carries a lot of emotional weight. It implies you went way beyond what was necessary or expected.
It does. And you often hear it used to describe past efforts, sometimes with a little bit of frustration. I have been bending over backwards for a month to help you with this.
It's a way of saying, I've done everything I possibly can and more.
Exactly. A huge compliment to the effort, or maybe a complaint about how exhausting it was.
Okay, that brings us to our fourth section. Communication, secrets, and the flow of information. Let's start with a really crucial skill for modern life. Skepticism.
Yes. How to take something with a grain of salt, or, depending on where you are.
A pinch of salt.
Right. It means not completely believing something because you think it's probably exaggerated or not entirely true.
And you highlighted the cultural difference. American English is usually grain of salt. British English is often pinch of salt.
But the meaning is identical, and it's so important today. Any wild claim you see on social media, you need to take that with a massive grain of salt.
It's a perfect, quick way to encourage critical thinking.
Now let's go from skepticism to the opposite. Complete, eager attention. We have two for this. All ears and hang on someone's every word.
Okay, so all ears is pretty straightforward. It's a direct statement. I'm planning a surprise party. Tell me your ideas. I'm all ears.
Right. It means you're waiting eagerly and giving your full attention. But hang on, someone's every word is deeper.
It feels more intense.
Much more. It implies you're captivated. You admire the speaker. You're enthralled by what they're saying. You're not just listening politely. You're absorbed. Think of a brilliant lecture or a keynote speech.
You're hanging on their every word. Got it. Now, let's get into the world of secrets. How do you find one out?
You get wind of something.
This is such a great, fluent-sounding phrase. It means to hear a piece of information that someone was trying to keep secret.
Its value is its conciseness. It's so much better than saying, I managed to find out about the secret information.
Yeah, that's so clunky. This is much more elegant. It's like catching a scent on the breeze. You hear it in the news all the time. Police got wind of the plan and moved in.
And once you share a secret, you need to make sure it stays a secret.
So you tell them, mum's a word.
An informal but very clear instruction. It means keep silent, don't tell anyone.
And you can link them perfectly. Look, this is a secret. I don't want anyone else to get wind of this, so mum's the word.
Perfect. It creates that immediate pact of silence.
Okay, two more that are absolutely essential for any workplace. In the loop and out of the loop.
So important. Being out of the loop means you're unaware of what's happening. You're excluded from the important conversations and decisions.
And being in the loop is the opposite. You're informed, you're current, you're included.
And it's so often used as a direct request. Can you please keep me in the loop on this project? It's a way of saying, I need this information to do my job properly.
Right. You don't want your judgment clouded because you were out of the loop.
Exactly. Now, speaking of awareness, what about when you kind of sort of know something, but you can't quite place it?
That's when it might ring a bell.
Ring a bell. It just means to sound familiar. If someone asks if you know a person and you're not sure, you'd say, that name doesn't really ring a bell.
It's a quick way to gauge how familiar something is without committing to knowing all the details.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay, so let's talk about managing those conversations. When a topic comes up, that's good, but it's not the right time for it.
Put a pin in it.
This is so useful in meetings. It means you pause the discussion on that topic, but with a clear plan to come back to it later. Great idea, but let's put a pin in it for now and circle back next week.
And we have to make a key distinction here. This is not the same as taking a rain check.
Yes. Crucial difference. Explain that.
So a rain check is for an invitation. Can I take a rain check on dinner? And it can sometimes feel like a gentle way of saying, no, maybe forever.
Right. It can be a bit of an avoidance tactic.
But putting a pin in it is professional. It's sincere. It says, this is important and we will discuss it, just not right this second. It's about being efficient, not being avoidant.
That's a great distinction. Now, what about the things that interfere with good decision-making?
Well, something can cloud your judgment.
This means your ability to think clearly is impaired, usually because of some external factor.
Right. Strong emotions are a big one. Or personal loyalty. If you have to give a performance review to a friend you've been through thick and thin with.
That history could definitely cloud your judgment. It's hard to be objective.
Exactly. It identifies that barrier to clear thinking. Now, that's related to, but different from, having your head in the clouds.
Right. Head in the clouds is more about being unrealistic or just not paying attention.
Yes. Someone who is totally out of the loop on a project's budget and keeps suggesting wildly expensive ideas. They have their head in the clouds. It's a critique of their practicality.
Okay, that brings us to our final section. Looking back, judging outcomes, and critiquing what happened. And the absolute classic for this is hindsight is 20/20.
Such a great one. It's usually a standalone statement, right? It just acknowledges that it's easy to see the right path after everything is over.
The metaphor is perfect.
Yeah.
2020 is perfect vision. So in retrospect, everything is perfectly clear.
It's a way of accepting that we make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. When someone is beating themselves up over a past mistake, you can say, hey, hindsight is 2020. It's a bit of grace.
And that perfect clarity of hindsight leads directly to the people who love to use it.
The Monday morning quarterback.
A very American idiom. You have to know the context here.
Right. It comes from American football, which is mostly played on Sundays. The Monday morning quarterback is the fan who, on Monday, criticizes all the decisions the players and coaches made during the game.
It's easy to be critical after the fact, right?
That's the whole point. It has a negative connotation. It's an unfair armchair critique. The two are linked. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback because hindsight is 2020.
Let's talk about the endings of events themselves. Two key phrases here. The first one implies a lot of stress.
Down to the wire.
This means the very last minute of a super suspenseful situation. The outcome is uncertain until the very, very end.
Think of a close basketball game decided by a shot at the buzzer, or a project deadline that you meet with only seconds to spare. The key emotions are stress and suspense.
You're racing against the clock. Now, contrast that with a similar but different phrase.
In the home stretch.
This just means the final part of something. It comes from horse racing, right? The final straight part of the track before the finish line.
Exactly. And the distinction is important. In the home stretch just means you're near the end. It doesn't have to be stressful. You could be in the home stretch of a really enjoyable vacation. Down to the wire is always stressful.
That's a really useful difference. And finally, what do you say when just everything seems to be going wrong at once?
When it rains, it pours.
Another standalone statement. When one bad thing happens, a bunch of other bad things follow. A cascade of misfortune.
It's that feeling of being overwhelmed. Your car breaks down, then you get sick, then your computer dies. It just keeps coming.
And the source noted that in the UK, you sometimes hear, it never rains, but it pours.
Right. A slightly different phrasing, but the exact same feeling of compounded misery.
Okay, let's circle back to relationships. A really powerful one for loyalty and shared history.
Through thick and thin.
This means going through a lot of good times and, more importantly, a lot of bad times together over a long period.
And it's almost always used for a very long-term established relationship. A spouse, a sibling, a best friend.
You always hear it as, we've been through thick and thin. It's that shared history. And like we said, that's the kind of thing that can cloud your judgment.
Absolutely. Now, on the other end of the relationship spectrum,
You have someone who is out of your league.
meaning a person or maybe a thing is just too good or too expensive for you. It's unattainable.
It's used most often in dating, isn't it? Someone is too beautiful, too smart, too successful for you to even have a chance with.
It is. The meme from the source was perfect. Not only am I out of your league, you're not even playing the same sport. It's just a complete mismatch in status.
And when something or someone becomes really popular or successful, you see people jump on the bandwagon.
Yes. Starting to do something just because it's now fashionable or profitable, it suggests you're an opportunist, not a true believer.
Like the sports fan who only starts wearing the team jersey when they're winning the championship.
That's the classic example. Or companies that all rush into a new trend only after it's been proven to make money. It's following the crowd for personal gain.
Okay, we're wrapping up with just a few more really useful conversational idioms. First, how you get out of an obligation,
You're off the hook.
meaning you're free from blame or a difficult situation. If you made a mistake at work and your boss says, don't worry, it's fixed, you're off the hook.
It's a huge relief. Or if a party you didn't want to go to gets canceled, you're off the hook. You don't have to go.
Next, an idiom for when you spent way too much money.
You had to pay through the nose.
This is more than just paying a lot. It means you paid way more than something was actually worth.
Yes, there's a sense of being ripped off or taken advantage of. It often happens when supply is low and demand is high.
Like trying to buy airline tickets for a major holiday at the last minute. You end up paying through the nose.
You really do. And finally, an idiom for emotional release.
To get something off your chest.
This means telling someone about something that's been worrying you or making you feel guilty. It's like a weight is lifted once you say it out loud.
And it's often used right before you share that information. Listen, I need to get something off my chest. It prepares the listener for a confession.
A very useful phrase.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground here. From money and risk to secrets and conflict, the importance of really getting this stuff for any advanced English learner is just, it's huge.
It is, because the real value here is in the nuance. When you know the difference between being in a pickle and being on thin ice.
Or when to put a pin in it versus take a rain check.
Exactly. When you make those choices correctly, you're showing an understanding that goes so far beyond a textbook. You sound intuitive. You sound natural. You sound well-informed.
It really is the ultimate shortcut to sounding fluent.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that ties a few of these ideas together. If you find yourself constantly having to bend over backwards to meet impossible deadlines at work, and you feel that your decision-making is being clouded by the pressure to just conform, how do you know if you are merely in the home stretch of a difficult but sustainable project, or if you're truly down to the wire in a way that risks total failure? Think about that line between endurance and collapse.